Hello and welcome to Sports Tavern Talk. I'm your host, Elijah Loyola. After going over the NFC South Division, we move back to the AFC Conference to go over our next division, the AFC North, which boasts the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Baltimore Ravens, the Cincinnati Bengals, and the Cleveland Browns. Last season, this division was one of the most chaotic divisions as the division race was going between Baltimore and Pittsburgh to see who would win and move on to the playoffs. Though it was strange that some way somehow the Bengals were always into it until late in the season, and the Cleveland Browns snuck in a few wins that nobody thought they could win, but fortunately had some great development for their players. It'll be an interesting division to go over next season, especially what just happened. But for now, let's start with the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers won the division, kicking away the Ravens, getting after a last-second missed field goal by the Ravens, only for them to continue to be making the playoffs and losing out of the first round. The question still remains of whether Aaron Rodgers will be the fit quarterback to be playing again, or if they will go a different route. But for now, let's see what the Pittsburgh Steelers have done in free agency to bring in any new players for their roster. Looking back at free agency, the Pittsburgh Steelers did bring in a lot of great players for their roster, especially considering who left the team. Starting on the offensive side, they were able to sign Rico Dowdle to a 2-year contract after having both back-to-back breakout years with Dallas and Carolina, putting him in a prime position to take the RB1 spot. And they also traded for wide receiver Michael Pittman Jr. from the Indianapolis Colts, as the Colts decided to stay with Alec Pierce. Not too long after that, the Steelers signed to a 3-year, $59 million deal through the extension. They also did re-sign their longtime captain Cameron Hayward to a 2-year contract and brought in Sebastian Joseph-Day as well, as these two would help anchor the front line for the defense. And they did sign Bucs cornerback Jamel Dean, who had a career year out in Tampa Bay and put himself on the market, with Pittsburgh betting on him with a 3-year contract. This Pittsburgh Steelers team has a lot of questions, especially starting out with the new head coach, Mike McCarthy. Mike Tomlin stepped down after their wildcard loss to the Houston Texans in a devastating fashion. And it's whether or not that Mike McCarthy could find a way to keep quarterback Aaron Rodgers on the roster to play together for what might be one last ride for Rodgers before he heads to retirement. But so far, no news has come up for the team. So it's up to the Steelers to look towards the draft and figure out what positions they should draft. And it might be evident that they should find a quarterback for them to look next to. Sure, they drafted Will Howard, but it may not be enough for just Will Howard. They'll probably draft another quarterback and probably sign another veteran if Aaron Rodgers decides not to return to the Steelers. But anyways, let's take a look at the mock draft that I've set up for the Pittsburgh Steelers coming up very soon this Thursday. The Pittsburgh Steelers have a league-leading 12 draft picks in this year's draft class, and they might be using every single one of these picks to find the necessary players they want to have for their roster. Starting on the first round, they would pick a wide receiver in Denzel Boston to help improve the wide receiver room, which was pretty weak in my opinion last year, even with Aaron Rodgers at QB. Then with this selection, the Steelers can now have a trio between DK Metcalf, Michael Pittman Jr., and rookie Denzel Boston. Between the second and third round, they would choose defensive players in AJ Halsey and LT Overton. And the third round is where they get really busy here. With an extra 4 picks, they would find another defensive lineman in Grayson Holton and cornerback Dylan Everett with the defense, and then selecting Mike Washington Jr. as a running back and Garrett Nussmeier QB for them. Mike Washington Jr. can be the backup running back to Rico Dowdle on the roster, and Garrett Nussmeier might be the eventual answer for the next franchise quarterback. Then we head to the late rounds where the Steelers would find 2 offensive linemen to draft to help beef the offensive line, grabbing another linebacker for their defense, another weapon in Romello Brinson, the wide receiver from MCU, and a third defensive lineman in Devin Easton out of Minnesota. It may seem weird why I would have 3 defensive linemen drafted for the Pittsburgh Steelers. My reasoning is that even with Cameron Hayward and TJ Watt, who continue to put on big performances when it matters most for the Steelers defense, anyone outside of those two have not lived up to making big plays. and the rotation of the defensive line wasn't really good in Pittsburgh last year. Hence why I believe they should be finding young players at the defensive line position to could make instant plays. Not only that, improving the secondary has to be key, especially considering how well these offenses are between Baltimore and Cincinnati in their division. And Garrett Nussbaumer might be the answer at the next franchise QB, who might battle out for the QB1 spot whether or not Rodgers is still there. But anyways, let's move on to talk about some of these draft picks that would make an instant impact on Pittsburgh. Starting off with the Washington wide receiver, Denzel Boston. Standing at 6'3", 212 pounds, Denzel Boston is a boundary X receiver that every NFL team wants. He displays outstanding body control and ball skills for contested catches, fluid for his size with efficient double moves, and plays as a big red zone weapon. With this strong frame, he can box out defenders at the catch point, track the ball anywhere on the field, and run his routes with intent and suddenness. Not to mention, he's also a very physical run blocker. This will be a great selection for Pittsburgh in my opinion, having another receiver that would complete a nice wide receiver trio that could surely be used pretty well on Pittsburgh. And with his ability to block, they could really open this running game well up between the next selections of Mike Washington and Rico Dowdle. As for AJ Halsey, he is an overlooked Texas high school star that transformed into an elite ball hawking safety. He has elite ball production, having 10 career interceptions, while also being a tackling machine that led his team in tackles multiple times and has exceptional instincts to read quarterbacks and jump routes. In my opinion, this has to be a must draft selection for the Steelers, considering the fact that they had 4 safeties that left for free agency, with 3 of them gone and 1 of them still being still available. AJ will also be a great selection for this young Steelers secondary that will continue to anchor the way and try to hold itself down in a strong offensive division. Lastly, let's talk about quarterback Garrett Nussbaumer out of LSU. With a 6'2", 203-pound frame, he is a timing and rhythm quarterback that is one of the best raw processors in this draft, who can also throw highly catchable balls all over the field. He has polished his tight throwing motion with a clean release, having an elite pressure to sack rate and good pocket movement awareness. After Mendoza and Ty Simpson, the quarterback list does fall short, but it won't deter away from Pittsburgh that they need to find a quarterback solution. With Will Howard being one quarterback selected last year in the draft, they would find them in Garrett Nussbaumer for another selection. But albeit in my opinion, Nussbaumer might be a more significant better option. He could definitely play well and has extreme coachability to play in a nice system and an offense where he can run freely and have nice weapons to throw around to for sure. Pittsburgh may be looking at an option like this, whether it be him or not, but I think Nussbaumer might be a better fit for Pittsburgh than any other quarterback in this draft class and might be the solution to carry on as the next franchise quarterback. Certainly, this team has a lot of needs to fill, but with 12 draft picks, they can overset the loss of the multiple free agents that did leave the team. And for Mike McCarthy, somehow, someway, he will find his QB1, whether it be Aaron Rodgers or a rookie quarterback in the draft. The expectation for the Steelers is to get back to their winning ways again like they did last year, having at least 9 or 10 wins on the season. For me, that will be enough to be second place in the division behind the Baltimore Ravens, who would win and might possibly earn a wild card spot. If they do that, it'll be up to McCarthy to see how he handles the situation and whether or not he can finally give the Steelers a chance to make it past the wild card round. That's all the time for today. Thank you so much for watching Sports Tavern Talk. One last thing before I go. Between today and on draft day before it starts, I'll be posting my final version of the mock drafts for every team between Instagram and on X, so please keep a lookout for them. And anyways, thank you so much for watching. Please make sure to leave a like and comment on the video, and make sure to follow me on YouTube, Instagram, and on X. And as always, I will see you next time.